Hello, students. I believe my voice is audible. So, students, I will give you answers marked by this Saturday with full feedback. And for today's class, students, we will do the writing session on the questions what you did on the mock number 5 and the mock number 6. So, students, if you observe, now before the mock number 5 and mock number 6, we effectively did a small discussion on how to analyze the technical areas. One technical area was risk, and the other technical area was foreign subsidiary, that is the accounting treatment in accordance with IAS 23. Now, students, if you observe, whenever you go to the examination in the future, always start with the question requirement. Now, students, in this case, the first requirement is discuss the risk associated with starting a PBSA in Eastland. Now, students, I'll just write down here, starting risk associated. So I'll just write down the heading first, because I told you the examiner preferred like more of a content with the proper heading. Risk of starting PBSA in Eastland. So that is the first section. So what is the first section? Risk of starting PBSA in Eastland. That is the first one. So students understand it well. And then students, the second part, that is discuss how a foreign subsidiary need to be accounted in the consolidated financial statements. So in that also, let's work out here, discussion of a foreign subsidiary being accounted in the financial statements. So students, I believe that this is very, very clear for you. So one is risk and the other one is accounting. Now, if you observe the risk area, you have to think like a finance manager, where you have to technically give the correct risk that is involved in the PBSA business sector. But when it comes to the foreign subsidiary students, it is not like that. You have to know the technical understanding in order to respond for that. Now, since we have effectively understood the question requirement properly, now we have to see the 50% mark. Now, as I told you, it's better to have 5 points in headings. And if you observe students, if you go more than 5 points, that will effectively have an issue as well. So students, now if you observe this question, Pasan Fernando has sent you the following mail. The company is planning to start our first international operations in Eastland. The company is evaluating the following. Since it's our first overseas PBSA, can there be a risk analysis that needs to be considered as well? I have also attached the reference material, which has the information with regards to Eastland. Also, the financial implication of foreign subsidiary is a very important area we have to address the finance department. Therefore, please be kind enough to share your viewpoints on the accounting implication. Now, the reference material. The PBSA model in Tolan is becoming more saturated. There are emergence of more private residences at affordable rates, and generally students are moving to that. And also there's an increase in the number of PBSA service providers. Also, we have made a decision where we are planning to go ahead with Eastland, a neighboring country which is closer to Tolan. We have to make sure we start the PBSA where we are able to achieve a competitive advantage, since there will be an emergence of competition in the long term. Secondly, we have to consider this operation as an international operation. Therefore, we have to account as per IAS 21 foreign currency translation. The management needs to make sure guidance is provided on the accounting process that can be adopted. Okay, now students, I believe this is giving you a better clarity at the moment. Now, students, the risk. Now, I told you students, risk is not always bad. Risk sometimes have a good thing also. Now, students, upside risk. Now, if you observe the upside risk is students, if you are over dependent in Townland, your business will have an issue. But the positive sign of upside risk is your diversification. So one option is diversification of market. Because when you diversify the market, students, there is always high potential that the company can effectively mitigate the risk that they are facing. So first thing I'll write down here, students, diversification of market, diversification, diversification of market, diversification of market. Because that is when upside risk I can effectively say, diversification of market. And students, if you observe the second one, the PBSA. So the first thing is the legal risk, because we don't know the legal risk of Eastland, how the Eastland government is effectively managing this. And then students, the next thing is curriculums in Eastland universities, in Eastland universities. Because students, we have to understand their systems, because for instance currently we have 2 semesters, the dates timing can be different from each other. And then students, cultural risk. So can I write down here, students, cultural risk? Students, what risk? Students, cultural risk. Students, can there be cultural risk? Definitely, because the culture in that country and the culture in Thailand can be completely different. And then students, another risk that we can effectively understand starting in Eastland, effectively can be, students, we can also say security factors. Security factors, students, because if you observe, security factors is important. Because students, if you see, the local civil security is also important, and regional security is also important. So these are the points. Now, Mr. Srini, anything that you like to add upon, you can put it in the chat box. I will be able to just go through that. Any students, you can just say. So these are the risk that is there. And for this question, there is no correct answer. Anyone who has written a logical answer can effectively get the full marks. So if you do not mind, students, can you just let me know in this case? If you do not mind, can you just let me know in this case, students? If you do not mind, can you please let me know in this case how the things are, how the things are. So waiting for you. So can I go ahead with this? Yeah. So if you have anything which I have missed, you can use the chat box or you can let me know. So diversification of the market. So I'll write down here. Currently, the company is dependent in Thailand. Agree? This is the correct context. So I'll just apply this. Therefore, moving to another market will reduce the risk of market dependency. That means, in simple language, this is a market diversification. Market diversification. Students, I believe that is clear. So that is the application. Now, students, the good thing about this, so the results, this can eventually make sure there is a sustainable revenue for some times, for some time, since at present the competition in Eastland is less. And then students, the lessons, this can be a great factor for risk taking to achieve competitive advantage for the management of Flatthall. Students, can I get a Y in the chat box if you are clear with this? Can I get a Y in the chat box? Because students, this is the structure. So I'm just going to develop a small framework and guide you. So can I get a Y in the chat box, students, if you are clear with this color codes? Can I get a Y in the chat box if you are clear with this color code? Because I am assuming that you are listening to my classroom, because I am not getting any communication in the chat box. because I'm assuming that my voice is only audible. Thank you. Thank you very much, Petronella. So students, if you observe in this, now when you go to the exam, I said there are two types of question. One question is technical question. One question is business question. So in the business question, always when you're starting, you write the context. What is that, students? Context, context. Business question, you have to always start with what, students? Context. Now, context is, students, what is the issue or what is the situation? What is the situation? Now, the situation you have to initially start with. Do you see the black color ink, students? The company is dependent on Towlen. That is the current situation. And then students state, then what you have to do, students? Apply. You have to do the application. So what is the relevance? What is the relevance? What is the relevance to whom, students? Flatthall. What is the relevance to whom, students? Flatthall. So that is another factor to be considered. And then, students, the next one is the results. That means what can happen as it is. Now, if you pursue this strategy, what is the result? That means, students, sustainable revenue. Correct, no, students? So I will write down here, what can you expect? What can you expect in the future? What can you expect in the future? What can you expect in the future? And the last one, students, the outcome, the lesson. So I'll write down here the lesson, the lesson. So in this case, the lesson is, what is the ultimate conclusion? Ultimate conclusion. Students, are you clear? Because when you write down a heading, please structure the heading with 4 sentences. So effectively, your sentence should be futuristic, focusing on the management. So can I get a Y in the chat box, students, if you got this style? Can I get a Y in the chat box, students, if you got this style? Because that is very, very, very important. Thank you. Thank you very much, students. Because we have to slowly improve this application in order to score well in the examination. Now, students, the second one is a legal risk in the Eastland. So I'll just make sure let's work on that step by step. So I'll write down here the PBSA businesses industry knowledge are exposed to legal risk, since students occupy this this accommodation, in some cases, foreign students as well, so that is the context, the situation. Now, students, application. So I'm going to come to the application. Flatthall needs to understand the legal structure. Flatthall needs to understand the legal structure in Eastland. The illegal structure in Eastland, since there is a better understanding as well, since in case if the rules are different, considering Towlen, there is a risk where the company will effectively face fines and suspensions, because that is very, very important. And then, students, what can you expect in the future? So I'll just write down here, currently there are less PBSA. So in the future, we can expect government giving more approvals, government providing more approvals for PBSAs. And the last lesson is, students, I'll just write down here. The sensitivity of legal risk is high. The sensitivity of legal risk is high. Risk is high since we are a foreign business. We are what business, students? We are a foreign business. We are a foreign business. Students, are you getting the clarity here, students? Any questions you like to ask? You can ask me, students. But if you are fine with that, can I quickly get a confirmation from you in the chat box, students? If you are fine with that, can I quickly get a confirmation from you in the chat box? Thank you. Thank you very much, students. Thank you very much. Now, students, you would have understood when you're following this framework, the quality of your answers go towards the future. Now, the next one is the curriculum in Eastland universities, because that is very, very important. So I'll write down here the PBSA model. The PBSA model effectively goes in line with the university or the college curriculum. University or the college curriculum. In that case, the companies needs to have a good understanding with the business. A good understanding with the business. Correct, no, students? Can I quickly get a confirmation from you in the chat box? Because that is very, very important. And within business, I can say college or university, because that is very, very important. Because if you have to understand, because sometimes they need to refer you as well. So also I can just write down here for Flatthall, this may ensure there is a proper understanding of the business to forecast their cash flows and revenue. And also to ensure the maintenance and repair for annually. Maintenance and repair on annual basis. Because students, can you remember, we have to understand this, because when one student batch goes out, then we have to do the repair and maintenance. So I'll think about the future also. There needs to be a good relationship between college and university. Relationship between college and university. Since it may guide a sustainable referral relationship. It may guide a sustainable referral relationship. Referral relationship. And students, what is the final lesson here? So I can effectively say, therefore, the final conclusion can be the final conclusion can be there is a the final conclusion can be there is a situation where the company will be able to design a sustainable model a sustainable model as per Tolan. This looks a little bit longer, but it's a good application. Cultural risk. Now, students, this is very important. So I'll just go through this. The PBSA model is focusing on students. Therefore, in every region, there can be different student culture. That is one factor. Now, students, I'll just write down Flatland needs to take time to understand the local situation, like can students come to college, come to PBSA at late hours? Is it allowed? Sorry, is it allowed? Is it a normal practice? In that case, there needs to be some guidance provided to the concierges, because the concierges are very, very important people. And then students, I'll just write down the future. The local employees can be recruited as managers for the PBSA, since they will be able to have understanding of local culture very well, and also local language as well. And the final one, so can we just focus on the final one? Yes. Therefore, in the final application, this is an intangible value that can be achieved, like Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola gets adapted to the local culture very, very faster. That can be achieved. Full stop. And then the security factors, because this is very, very critical. PBSA is generally exclusive only for students. The objective can be student safety. Correct, no, students? Very, very, very practical. Students' safety. Now, students, coming to the country here. So I'll just mention, considering the local factors in, I can effectively say, the local factors in Eastland, we have to understand the civil security conditions, because civil security is very, very important. That is internal security, students. Since we are in a new territory, in that case, we have to make sure that we are able to have a better clarity as well, since there needs to be assurance to the students' safety, because that is very challenging. So in that case, students, the results, so I can say the application, the results, there needs to be an outsourcing arrangement to a local security firm. In that case, it will be able to have a better understanding as well, and also better quality as well. So finally, I'll write down here. Therefore, in that case, the PBSA can be benefited, as well. Now, students, other points I can just give you because no one gave me any answers. I'll just give you some other points. Now, this I'm not developing, but I'll write down here other points. Students, infrastructure risk. Can I write it down, students? One is infrastructure risk. Because students, now lift everything we have, but we have to ensure that whether the risk the lift all what we have is effectively managed properly. So can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are getting this point of infrastructure is the electricity, all those things are very, very important, no, students. So that is very, very clear. So since this is clear for you all, now let's go through the foreign subsidiary, students. A discussion of a foreign subsidiary being accounted. Now this part is very, very simple. The second part is not so difficult. It is very, very simple. And students, I told you for the first part, you have to understand the business properly. But for the second part, it's not the business understanding, students. It's the application oriented understanding. Students, just give me 10 seconds. I'll just charge in my laptop. The discussion of a foreign subsidiary being accounted in the financial statement. So shall we work on this? Yes. The foreign subsidiary may have foreign currency. In the case in Eastland, the functional currency can be E-dollars. And when it comes to the parent entity, that is Towland, is T-dollars. So I will slowly move forward. This will result in a difference when translating, which is called the foreign currency exchange difference. Currency translation exchange difference. So students, I'll just continue this. Therefore, this will be needed to be presented and disclosed in the financial statements for the decision making of investors and lenders. Investors and what, students? Lenders. Students, can I quickly get a confirmation from you if you are clear with this introduction, students? If you are clear with this introduction, can I quickly get a confirmation from you? Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, students, I'll write down the first subheading. Statement of profit or loss adjustment. In the statement of profit or loss, the transactions takes place on a daily basis. Transactions take place on what basis, students? Daily basis. That is also very, very clear. In the context of Flatthall, the sales and expenses needs to be translated using the average rate in the financial year end. Students, I'll continue this. This will be reflected as a note and presented in the workings. This will ensure that there is a transparent translation. Now, students, I'll write down here another heading, other comprehensive income section, because it is statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income. In the other comprehensive income, the overall translation gain will be presented, and this will be reflected to show there is a change as well. So let's continue this. In this case, since it is first year, the amount shown will be less. And students, I'll continue. Therefore, this will have some clarity to the investors that this change is not a result of business trading, not a result of business trading. Students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are clear with the P&L and other comprehensive income? Because the next thing what we are going to do is the statement of financial position. So I'll write down the next heading, statement of financial position. Statement of financial what, students? Position. Shall we work on this? Of course, we can work on this. So in this case, I'll write down here, the statement of financial position generally presents assets, equity, and liabilities. Asset, equity, and liabilities, which are reported at year end. Correct, no, students? So I'll write down here, Flatthall generally needs to use the closing rate to translate these values. So I will continue this so that it will be very easier. In that case, all the assets, including goodwill, will be translated at closing rate, and similarly the liabilities. In the equity reserves, there can be additional reserve mentioning translation reserve. This will ensure there is a better clarity. And the last one I'll just write down. Therefore, these are the accounting entries when there is a foreign subsidiary. When there is a foreign subsidiary. Students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? Now, this point of view is very much technical, very much technical. That means even if you are doing a different case study, the answer for foreign currency will be same in every examination. Can I get a Y in the chat box, students, if you are okay with this application, students? So this is one thing. The accounting standards are almost the same in every exam paper. Thank you. Now, students, the next question, value analysis and customer life cycle. So again, students, let's focus on that also so that it will be very, very easier for you all. So I'll write down here, mock number 6, part 2. We'll finish that as well so that you will get the clarity. And I believe that when you go through the recordings of this and when you go through the answers of this continuously and practice, you will improve your writing skills. Firstly, please be kind enough to discuss on how customer lifecycle analysis can be used in the case of Flatthall. So I'm going to write down here, customer life cycle analysis usage or application to Flatthall. Application to what, students? Flatthall. And then, students, can we just effectively go to the next one? Discuss what are the value analysis factor to be considered in the process. So I'll write down here, value analysis factors to be considered in the process, value analysis factors to be considered in the process. So students, let's work on this. Now here, if you observe both the question, it's not an accounting standard question. Both the question is effectively focusing on business application of these models. Pasan Fernando has sent you the following mail. Since there is an increase in the competition, there is many concerns whether how we are going to move forward. Till date, we have been following traditional approach of renting out the business. And we are very much certain how this can provide a stable income as well. The management has requested, can there be a situation where we can use customer life cycle analysis in order to make sure? And can we do some segmentation as well to make sure there's a better alignment? Also, the management has requested to provide a value analysis on the service we are providing to the students. Therefore, in that case, we will be able to make sure the company is able to retain the competitive position. The reference material, the management has requested the company to make sure there is a process where there can be a development of value analysis and also customer lifecycle analysis. Since currently, considering the business situation, we have to ensure there is a better understanding of the process since there is a rise of competition as well. Also, value analysis is very much critical since it helps the business to eliminate activities which does not involve value additions. Therefore, in that case, the company needs to make sure there is a better understanding also. Okay, now students, coming into the system. Now, customer life cycle analysis. That means, students, here we need to know that our customers will live in our Flatthall PBSA for 3 years. That's the life cycle. And what we can do using the 3 years within us, can we upsell any other products? Or can we give some any other combo products also? So that is one thing. So students, I'll just write down here. the duration at Flatthall. That is the first thing. Okay, so I'll write down here. Currently, the students are staying based on the degree course duration. Degree course duration, generally 3 years. Context. So apply. For Flatthall, this is the complete customer span in their PBSA. Correct? Now, I'll just connect it. At present, we are using referral method like Open Day to bring new students using university and past alumni feedbacks. Now, students, I'll just continue. So can we just move forward? Yeah. This will eventually make sure there is a better alignment as well. Full stop. But at the moment, this is insufficient. At the moment, this is insufficient. This is insufficient. Full stop. Now, the next thing. During the stay, currently, the only facility we provide is accommodation. The students are choosing Flatthall not for the brand, but for the convenience. But for what students? The convenience, but for the convenience. So can I say here 20 minutes walking distance? 20 minutes what students? Walking distance. 20 minutes walking distance. So let's continue that step by step. Therefore, the customer lifecycle analysis can be used to provide additional services like a canteen or a mess. These strategies will eventually result in a better, I can say, revenue streams as well. Full stop. That is one factor. Okay. Then students, the next thing. Can we target other students in different vocations? That means students, now we are only targeting students on academic, but can we go for vocation? Vocation means students, hand jobs. Example, students like training. You will be having like electrician, after that students, I can say stitching, all those things are effectively considered to be vocations. At present, the rules are only for students. Correct, no students, only for students. But there is no specification whether academic or vocation. Whether academic or what students? Whether academic or what students? Academic or vocation. Academic or vocation. So students, let's step by step move forward. Therefore, in this case, it can help Flatthall to decide, can we provide accommodations for diploma courses? Diploma what students? Courses. So that still there can be some new customer add-ons. For instance, during vacation, the building is unoccupied. Therefore, in that case, can this be provided? That is one thing. Now, students, I'll just write down. This may reduce the risk of over-dependency of colleges, since there can be a rule with regards to completion rates, because it was mentioned no students completion rates. Now students, I'll just continue. Therefore, in that case, the company needs to ensure there is a differentiation as well. Differentiation as well. Now, students, the next thing, can we extend the life cycle of the students to workers? It's another question. At present, the current students will end up as workers. The current students will end up as workers. Can Flatthall ensure that they provide better facilities with some discounts to their students in case if they reside during the working tenure in a different property, belonging to Flatthall. This can be a greater strategic benefit as well. And students, I'll continue. Therefore, in that case, the company can eventually perform better. So I will get that point. So can I get a clarity here, students? Are you fine with the customer life cycle analysis? So many points you can write, but do you understand the application, students? Now, the theory class, what we did, and the application class, what we are doing, do you see? You need to know the idea of what is customer life cycle. But when it comes to the application, you are need to think like a business finance manager. Can I get a double Y in the chat box, students, if you got the differentiation? Because the objective here is understand the differentiation. Especially, I always focus, I tell the students, if you go with the theory, the biggest challenge is your business application will be very poor. So value analysis factors to be considered in the process. Just give me 20 seconds, I'll drink some water. So value analysis factors to be considered. Generally, the customer perceives a brand based on the value they are receiving. The value they are receiving. Correct, no, students? The customer perceives a brand based on the value they are receiving. Now, students, I will just continue. The value is based on the functions in the services and also the convenience they get. Now, students, I will continue this. This will ensure that the company can effectively make sure there is a understanding about the business trend and customer orientation. Now, students, I am going to continue this. Therefore, in that case, the company needs to ensure that there is a business feedback analysis every time. Considering the PBSA model as well. Now that is the basic introduction. Okay. Now students, now this is very clear now students, the value analysis. So I'll write down here step by step. Therefore, in the initial stages, the functional analysis needs to be considered. Now I'll write down here. Currently, the main function for Flatthall is accommodation to students. Accommodation to students. Agree? Plus, there are some convenience factors. Such as distance to the college, laundry, and other facilities as well. And also cleanliness, and security. So I'll continue. However, at present, these functions are common with whom students. However, these functions are common with other PBSAs as well. Therefore, for Flatthall, there can be some differentiation that can be done in order to gain competitive advantage. In order to gain competitive advantage. Now, students, I'll just focus on this. Rooms are currently maintained by the students. Maintained by the students. There are additional functions like students can opt in for room service when they go for college. Therefore, it can save time. Correct, no, students? It can save time. So I'll continue this. In that case, PBSA will generally make sure that the students are able to have even time saved, as well. So I'll just continue. This will enhance a better value as well. And the next one. Some services like shared washrooms can be updated to attach bathroom as well. Therefore, in the future constructions, Flatthall can ensure there is some value additions as well. Now, students, I will continue this even better, so that it will be very easier. In that case, this will ensure higher value from competitors. Effectively result in competitive advantage. Full stop. Students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? Students, are you clear with this? This is just an application of how value analysis needs to be connected. Now, I believe that most of the students would have understood. You can pass this exam with confidence, students. You have to design your mind confidence, because if you observe only the accounting standards, you need to be thorough with the content. But when it comes to the other one, if you are still thorough with the content and just write the content, you can't pass. You have to make sure you use the terms in the business sector. So I'll come to the one-to-one discussion so that it will be very easier for you all. So go through this document today, very important. So I'll start with Mr. Srini. Any questions for the day? Ms. Sridevi, any questions for the day? If you're fine with that, can I get a Y in the chat box? So thank you very much, students. We will effectively meet on the next class on Saturday. I will give you another mock on Saturday, students. So today you can just take a time to go through these concepts, students. Thank you very much, students. See you on Saturday class. Take care, students. Thank you very much for your time.